themselves up better in game 2. Otherwise, we could have a short first series of the night.
All right, well, here we go. Kongdoo over on the blue side. Jace going to be the first thing that they ban away. And we know, I mean, MVP, they very well could be the type of team that would leave open the Rengar Camille, force somebody to pick and choose.
They felt the wrath of SKT, who did not ban any of the OPs against MVP in their second game, the last set that MVP played. But looks like MVP is just going to keep Kongdoo honest.
So no shenanigans from them. Malzahar, second ban by Kongdoo, and Kennen will be their third and final for the first round.
Took a Varus first pick once again. Kha'Zix was surprisingly passed over in picks and bans in our first game. Outside chance they leave Camille open, but that would seem pretty risky on the side of MVP.
Depends. How does Sion do into Camille?
Probably okay.
All right, well, they're going to ban it all the same.
Varus, very obvious first pick here, especially with Kha'Zix falling through picks and bans completely in game 1. Likely to see an Ashe answer from Maha, although his Jhin and Caitlyn are just both picks that he's picked up so far this season.
Yeah, an interaction that I just thought of was if you started the Sion charge and then you immediately throw down the ultimatum.
I believe you're still stopped, because you cannot by any means leave ultimatum, even though he cannot be stopped. Unstoppable force.
I think that's when your
immovable object.
Your game just blue screens.
That's right.
Well,
we can't afford any of those. We already have audio issues.
Yeah, we already have that fairly long pause, but yep, Varus snatched up Elise yet again for Beyond, so not going to go for the Graves, which is available for him. Punch had a really good start, and looks like he's going to go right back over to that pick.
Why not Graves Karma? That looks very clean on this side. Outside chance of something like a misfortune because of the Zyra pick, but I think the Karma and the two-man invades were the one thing that went well for Kongdoo, so why not double down on what was working in game 1? There wasn't much of it, so don't see any reason for not going for Karma here.
We'll take what you can get. Taking their time with this one, though, but there you go. As predicted.
And now just pick an 80 carry. That's what you'd expect from MVP in this scenario. That'd be an 80 carry.
That would be an 80 carry. So, I mean, Draven has seen some buffs in recent patches, but we haven't really seen anybody play it.
Even the Draven, you know, the previous Draven players aren't playing it. Optimism out the window. It's going to be Ashe Kilios.
Arrow's not here either.
Nope. No Praven just yet. His infamous Praven that he always lost on.
All right, so Ashe coming through for Maha.
Okay, let's see if Kongdoo can actually not outfox themselves in the second part of the draft. Their plan of banning tanks and then taking Rumble failed miserably in game 1 in the second round. So far I like everything from both sides in the first round of the draft.
All right, so Taliyah going to be the first thing that they take off the table. Edge was doing a fair bit of damage by the end of that game, but never really had those big Weaver's Walls plays, weren't affecting the bottom lane, like you said, where they need to play around. But they'll still take away that pressure, more global pressure removed, as Shen is banned away, so Kongdoo maybe looking for that Maokai pick. MVP banned it in response to the Shen ban in game 1. Do they want to do that again here? Or do they want to focus more on the mid lane?
If we were to see a Maokai first picked by MVP, which is also a chance of that happening, there could be something like Roach going to the gangplank if he feels necessary to try and find a lane advantage. Didn't work. In fact, went wrong in spectacular fashion when he tried it before, but we've seen Huni pull off the matchup. Sion, another champion that...
And that's who he tried that matchup on.
It's true. Sion has eluded him here, so we'll see if that's the final ban. And it will be.
All right, so still just don't want to see the Sions showing a lot of respect.
So MVP can either take the Maokai, which, given that the counter matchup didn't work for Kongdoo, is understandable, or they can take Corki and counterpick top lane. Those are their two options. They will go for the safer option of Maokai, but we'll see. Rise, first time in a little while. What does Roach want to play against Rumble? Sorry, against Maokai. I was saying Rumble because Rumble's something a lot of people would try in this matchup, but predictably doesn't want to play Rumble a second game in a row.
I mean, Poppy was the big available tank for him in game 1 that he didn't go for. One of the more aggressive options, but this time he will go ahead And pick up the Yordle, and then Rise blind picked into mid. So MVP, we'll see where they want to counter with.
Cassio, certainly an option that's available. That'll be the big one. Orianna's another very popular one. They have very good ball carriers. It seems like a perfect Orianna game as well, but will be Cassiopeia. Bit more pressure early. Maybe just the idea of if they win a lane early, then Kongdoo will not be able to get back into the game. Ori would have made a lot of sense in this particular game, but if you want to win laning phase hard, Cassio, the better champion to do that.
Yep. All right, well, team comps assembled.
Both of them very clean. Once again, pretty similar. This time we have tanks in the game, so that warps the mid game a little bit more, but I like the drops on both sides. Question is, will the execution favor it? Was MVP in game one. It's not been Kongdoo traditionally so far this season, but a lot to like on both sides.
We'll see if they can execute on it. Gonna have to look at Punch to have a better game transitioning into the mid game than we saw in game one. Really strong start and then fell off really hard. But that was also by way of the entire team not playing as a unit.
And it was also a caveat. It was the bottom side of the map and Punch having a great time and top lane having an awful time. Now we have tanks. Now top lane's going to be a lot less swingy. If we can see a repeat performance from Punch and his linking up with Guger in terms of invades, and then have, say, tanks who can actually flank engage, maybe that will actually allow the snowball that could have happened in game one if Kongdoo had played their early advantage around the 4 members of the bot and mid side a little bit cleaner.
And we'll have to see how Maha's going to fare. Was decent on the Varus, good, well positioned, but now this time going over to Ashe has to push significantly further up into the face of that Poppy. That Rise that can just drop the Rune Prison on him. So he's going to have to be very cautious as a heavy harass bottom lane with this Zyra in tow. But Guger's going to be offering up a lot of shields to try to mitigate that damage.
Kongdoo do not want this to become 12 losses in a row.
They certainly would love to avoid that one. Would be 5 match losses in a row as well on top of that. But let's go ahead and get onto the rift for game 2. Let me correct myself really quickly. I meant 5 0-2 losses in a row. Would be 6 overall losses.
Could argue their first set was a 0-2 loss after a victory.
I made that same mistake. There you go. I made that same mistake at the beginning of the broadcast when I said that they were 0-8 at the moment for their game score, because I was thinking in 0-2s.
They're losing a lot of Kilios.
They're losing quite a bit.
And I was speaking about the break because
they're losing as much as they possibly could.
Agreed. Almost mathematically so if they had lost their first game. Look, a Kongdoo fan.
The lone Kongdoo fan.
I'm going to actually make...
Meanwhile, more Pokemon.
I'm going to make an admission on broadcast. I actually am rocking the Kongdoo Monster flare on my solo queue account, which...
oh, boy.
I like the logo. I think it's a lot better than the last one. The One-Eyed Monster certainly was funny in its own way, but I like the logo. I liked a lot of what they were doing around Gyeonggi time, but I seem to have been the kiss of death to their hopes this season.
I have the filthy NA fanboy C9 icon on my account at the moment.
Stop with the sellouts, please, Kilios. We know that you stream on their network.
I flip back and forth sometimes.
Uh-huh. To what, TL?
No. Actually, some of my LMS teams. Flash Wolves. I forget the name, the Fireball team, whatever that is called.
Ah, yes. Your LMS teams that you forget the name of.
Well, that's not my team, but it's just got a really funny
I'm into
icon.
Korean teams, like whichever team Faker is on.
Funny enough, that hasn't changed at any given point.
What are you talking about?
Okay.
He was on this KR All-Star team.
Damn it.
He was on SKT T1K. He was on SKT T1K.
So
SKT T1 Team 2.
Well, actually, you mentioned All-Star. Funnily enough, that's going to be relevant in the next game. Huni versus Marin.
Can you keep our A-level material for the next game?
I got to have something to bump this up, man. Talking about icons and being a shill with C9.
Just Achilles things. Punch is keeping up the invading. This is the playstyle you take with Graves. You can be aggressive. Beyond smartly Actually, I was going to say smartly, but that was a punch ward. But because everything was on cooldown, he couldn't just turn and try to burst beyond.
Sil gets a nice little lead there with help from all of those Raptors. See if he keeps it up. Beyond definitely going to be needing some defensive wards to prevent more of these invades from coming through. Well, bottom lane seems like Maha and Max. But a decent bit of pressure here onto Gugur and Sol. But still, we'll be able to pick up almost all of those minions under turret, so he's only down by 3 at the end of the day.
All right, back to talking about the second series then, Achilles.
All right.
I got nothing for this one.
Yeah, Huni versus Marin.
Yeah.
Saw it at All-Stars 2015 when he was playing on Fnatic.
They've never met in a professional game.
If I remember correctly, Huni lost to Marin. I think he was playing Lissandra.
There's a lot of history we'll bring up in the second series. Also, not the first time Faker and Marin have played each other. Played each other during, it was Spring 2014, when SKTT1K and S were both in the same group. History, I mean, Faker and Kuro, plenty of storylines for that second set. Not so many for this one, apart from the continuing dwindling of the small flames available for Kongdoo.
Oh, flash sword by Max, tries to get the roots in onto Sol, but he flashes away just in time to keep himself safe, so no gank going to be coming through for Beyond. He's still poking forward. Won't be spotted yet, coming in. Flashes over. Beyond Gugur gets the cocoon in on the Sol. They take him down. Can they get the follow-up kill? Maha going deep and underneath the turret, but he's going to pay for that one with his life. 2 for 1 in the end. MVP putting a couple on the board.
I'm surprised that the now I'm here, now I'm not, I'm back again gank worked for Beyond, but did so in spectacular fashion. The peekaboo gank, I guess you could call it.
He went away for like 2 seconds. He must not be here anymore.
Hence the peekaboo gank. Worked surprisingly well. I liked what Beyond did, though. He actually surprised Sol by flashing over the Karma.
Yeah, I mean, you had to just think that Gugur was going to be the target there. That's certainly what I was expecting, but gets right on top of Sol. Everybody, clear communication that that was going to be the target. They all were able to collapse inward. Max picking up the first blood in the end.
Yeah,
so.
cool stuff from Beyond, but you would have thought Kongdoo would have either put down a shallow defensive ward or backed off, depending on if their warding totem was available. They didn't either, and were punished.
Or wait a couple more seconds before moving back forward. Oh dear, well that is certainly going to be a tilter for the start of the game. See how they deal with that.
IDD might die here.
It's going really low.
Ooh.
Flashes away right at the last second from that Keeper's Verdict. Certainly would have led to his death. So he's playing with fire a bit, but here comes a Realm Warp in from Edge. ADD getting back in underneath the turret.
He's not that low now. Remember,
Does he have Sap Magic?
Health.
Oh, but there
Nice.
we go.
Clean.
Yep. Pin comes through. Wasn't able to get an attack off to try to get that heal coming through from the passive.
Wish more fans were here. You need to really compliment clean play like that from Kongdoo. It's been at a premium so far this season.
Hey man, that one girl with the banner is ecstatic right now.
But MVP showing what Kongdoo were not able to do in game one. They're playing around where they're strong, which is the bottom side of the map. It won't just be free objectives. It will be a trade of objectives. Ocean into Infernal. Drake spawns this game.
Yeah, pretty good for both sides. For now, MVP just going to have that added bit of sustain.
I feel like when Riot renamed Dragons to Drakes, inadvertently gave the recording artist a lot of free publicity. We say Drake a lot. Before it was only the Europeans, because if you remember back in the day, they would call Dragon Drake back in Season 1 and 2.
Yeah. He could just do a 4-part album series based off each elemental.
Or it could have all been a long con he's performing in China in Beijing at the grand final. That would be a get.
You weren't supposed to leak that.
Oh, my bad.
Well, you heard it here first, guys. Now Riot just has to make it happen. Honestly, that would be one of the most bizarre things.
Wouldn't it be great if
imagine.
there's a crisis meeting tomorrow morning at Riot HQ where they're like, he leaked it. How did he know? I don't get it. I get a message being like, come on, like, how did you know? And I'm like, I don't know.
It was a stupid guess.
1 + 1 = 4, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, if you're going to do a live performance, I don't think Drake would work out too well in China. I don't know how many. I mean, you never know.
Hey,
he could be massive in
Hey,
China.
we had famously at the Season 4 World Championships, Imagine Dragons
That's
were here
true.
in
We did.
English. There were people singing the songs. Well, not as big in profile as they were now, but they were still pretty big at the time.
I feel like the lyricism in that is not nearly as
specific.
Yeah, as in a Drake song. Cougar though, let's just chain everything together to 100% assure that he dies. Ian chasing in on the Soul. Goes out the chain of corruption. He will lock up beyond, pops the heal and stay alive.
That's just a lot of damage.
And now Ian, yeah, he's gonna have to back off. Burns the flash, but still can't get away from that collateral damage. Goes down in the end.
Edge has no mana. If he was to come in with the Realm Warp, he'd be so probably should have stayed in mid.
Oh, okay.
Well, Punch decided to die.
That happened. He just wanted to throw the ward into the Tri-Brush.
And he did.
He did, but he died.
We didn't quite see the vision toggles, but you can kind of put 2 and 2 together.
Turns out, Max does a good bit of damage.
Support Zyra. The inverted commas are real. Well, they just used everything on Google, which meant they didn't have as many tools for Soul, so that was probably an overinvestment in terms of ultimates. Yeah, and then Punch does a lot of damage. This is what Graves does in the early game, lethality buffs or no.
Guess we won't get to see Max.
No, we really desperately need to get back to the top lane. He looks for an aggressive trade. Oh, we changed away for some reason.
I was so into that.
I was. That's why I was play-by-play.
I was so into it that I couldn't even talk.
I think one of these games, if we just get a tank fiesta forever, we should just unironically call the top lane.
Flash forward by Edge, lands that. Root prison down on the Ian.
Dies.
Nothing he can do, he dies.
The stuff from Kongdoo Monster, being proactive, picking their spots, no free objectives, no free lunch for MVP. So already an adjustment between sets. Wasn't really an adjustment I expected could happen. It was one of those ones where the call would have been difficult. Cougar's stunned.
It gets hit, that's going to be the root coming through. TP thrown down, though, by a Roach. And he's going to go ahead and finish the channel on this. Does he want to flash the wall, try to get on the Max? No, the Blast Cone comes through, takes him to safety. But safety for now because they're wrapping around the back. Realm Warp coming in. TP now coming through from ADD really late. They already jump onto Max. They're going to go ahead, finish him off. ADD arrives, gonna go in, locks down Roach with a twisted advance. They come up with a kill, but ADD's still really weak. Takes a ton of damage to the piercing arrow from Soul. The bottom of the lane is able to finish him off. Beyond coming in, trying to get onto Edge, goes up with a repel. He's gonna have to come straight back down. Certainly would have died. Flash forward, Soul with the piercing arrow. Takes him out. I saw the reaction from Joel over in the side here in the seats. I jumped out of my chair just the same way. Really unexpected kill coming through. And Kongdoo, out the gate, they just don't want to go down without a fight, it seems. Where they looked very much resigned to lose in Game 1. They have a breath of life in Game 2.
No sign of resignation in this channel of plays that we see in the bot side. Aggressive plays that we haven't seen. Welcome back to the LCK, to Kongdoo Monster. Not quite a sleeping giant, but certainly waking up with this passage of play. They feel energized with this Graves pick in particular on the front foot that it puts the jungle matchups in. Punch has been better than he has been at any point so far this season. As the level of decisiveness, they seem just surprised by the damage that Punch is able to do. Beyond gets greedy. He thinks they're going to pick up Punch whatever they do, so he turns onto Edge. But watch Soul on the bottom of your screen, sees the chunk hit, commits the flash, picks up the kill. Flashy, but gets the kill on the jungler. Nice stuff from Kongdoo.
And I mean, that's one of those moments where it's so good to channel the arrow before you flash, because if you flash, fire the arrow at the shortest range, and it's just out of the distance, then it's just heartbreaking for you. Edge gets hit by that Ash arrow. Big whiff on Ian's Petrifying Gaze.
It's actually smart play from the face checker. I believe it was Punch who just turned around, Faker style, and did not get stunned up. Vision was being provided by the control ward, but nothing for the Petrifying Gaze, like you mentioned.
Now Punch paying another visit into the bottom lane. Edge starting to inch his way down there, has the Realm Warp available, but he's spotted by that control ward.
Only level 1 of the Realm Warp because he's not level 11 yet, so the range on it pretty limited.
Yep, won't find much, so gold lead is here for Kongdoo Monster. So far, 1.3 thousand.
I'm loving this.
Yep.
Get an advantage around bot, successful turret dive. You know a lot of summoners are on cooldown, and Graves, one of the safest to solo down the Infernal Drake. Nice prize for Kongdoo Monster. Maybe we have a series in our hands, Achilles.
Certainly starting to look that way. Infernal Drake. Let's go over to Kongdoo. So a solid pickup for them. Another Ocean Drake will follow. Don't want to write off MVP quite yet. I mean, we saw Jin Air unable to close out a game over KT with the triple Infernal.
Best passage of play for Kongdoo, though, since the start of the season, so have to reward it for where it is, even if they don't end up sticking the landing in a really good early game for them. Their timings have been good, compared to the first game where they seemed unsure what to do when they had top lane losing in such a landslide fashion. They invade while Beyond is on the top side jungle. Teleports are down. They're not going to be punished for stealing away the enemy blue buff. Goes over to Punch. Edge on wave clear duty. Just happily stacking up. It's the timing on the Rod of Age is just fine, given that he went for the early mercs to survive the laning phase.
Definitely in a good spot. Now Soul coming back in, has that pickaxe, so he can move straight into the Edge of the Night.
Or the Mana Moon.
Could be, yeah. Actually could do that to get the faster stacking.
You look at the team he's facing, and Edge of the Night will get quite a lot of value, so could always be the Dirk coming up next. Straight to Dirk, pickaxe, no magic mantle, and recipe for the Edge of the Night, which we will see extensively. Honestly, if I don't see 2 in each game, I'm surprised.
Alright, Edge just getting the handoff on the blue buff. Doesn't want to poke up towards the top lane. Thought maybe they would go for a Realm Warp off the backside of that to try to get onto ADD. They do know that he has a slash available again, though. And doesn't want to give up much damage on that mid lane turret, so he's just going to go ahead and keep clearing out the waves. ADD has been able to give a bit of pressure to this top lane. You can see it's taken a decent bit of damage so far. And now with Beyond wrapping around the back, do they want to go for a dive? Keeper's Verdict is available, as is the flash for Roach. There's no minion wave. So it looks just to be a little bit too risky.
It feels like a pretty low percentage play in general, given the items have come pretty quickly for Roach.
I know exactly where Beyond is, so this opens up Punch to go ahead, shove right into the jungle of MVP, take away that wolf camp and get some deep vision established. Meanwhile, first turret of the game will be going over to Soul, so huge burst of damage, or gold rather, going over onto Soul, so now he can offer up even more damage. And MVP, they get relegated to taking a Rift Herald.
But the excitement here is that for Kongdoo Monster, A is led to B is led to C in a way that they haven't been able to string together in their previous 11 games. Everything so far has made sense for them. Their invade timings have been good. Punch hasn't been frustrated with not knowing where to path. And forcing a even tank lane matchup, which should be the case most of the time, you'd have to think, on patch 7.2, has been the blessing in disguise for Kongdoo Monster.
Certainly has, but they need to show us that they can close out the game. So far, has eluded them for quite some time.
See, the only thing you can say to that is that I wouldn't say their 11 losses. The inability to close was the problem. In fact, they weren't really in a position to close in any of those 11 games.
This is uncharted territory for them. Exactly. Spring 2017. Punch getting caught by that cocoon, but they can't go in. Beyond just gets chunked down. Soul, again, just hammering him continuously with these piercing arrows. Was the Manamune that he opted in for to get the faster stacking in on
Edge walking up to
that
Maha.
tier.
Both had summoners, so no ghost from Edge to pop and basically fish for the flash from Maha, because he has Cleanse as summoner.
Ian has to rotate down to the bottom lane, try to stop this push coming through from Edge. But has really been struggling despite playing the Cassiopeia, where you would think he has the upper hand in the matchup.
Low wave clear here from MVP. That's what happens when you don't go for the Orianna, you go for the Cassiopeia. Strength is in the laning phase. Laning phase, nothing much doing. Pretty even between Ian and Edge. But now in this scenario, which, fair enough, uncharted territory to be dealing with Kongdoo Monster in a snowballing capacity. But what can I say? It's happening on the Rift, and good rotation from Kongdoo means that 2 turrets are down. 4,000 gold lead. Everything going swimmingly.
Yeah, quite good for, under 20 minutes here. The next Dragon, our third of the game, another Ocean getting ready to spawn in about a minute. Limited vision control over that side of the map. MVP have a couple wards in the vicinity.
Both top laners sitting on a mountain of gold. They had the same items when we saw Beyond look for the gank up top. Probably seeing some nice completions. First shot advantage over to ADD. But Poppy will be able to answer now.
Yep, goes for the Spirit Visage.
Triple AP and an Ashe who doesn't really do damage till 2 items. Means that going for the completed magic resist item first makes a lot of sense.
I mean, you also have 4 sources of AP damage on the side of MVP, what with the Elise and the Zyra. So, makes sense. Go ahead and snatch that up first and foremost. With the Sunfire Cape coming in on the back end.
Maybe even the Iceborne Gauntlet first.
Might just be diverting away from that, so could see the Sheen picked up.
Sheen into situational, Achilles. Depends how much gold he has on his shop after that. Alright. Oh. Kongdoo continue to push. So far, not too far.
Yeah, Beyond sitting in the brush, but that control ward comes over.
With the way how the game has gone, there should be no way for MVP to walk up for a Drake. They don't have a teleport ward for the Maokai to come in on. Maokai actually going to walk over us. They want to try and fight for vision without actually committing to a teleport. That's smart from ADD.
They're already arriving ahead of Roach. He'll make his way into mid lane, however. So basically tying each other. Dragon not going to be started up quite yet. And Ian takes a decent bit of damage, so he's going to go ahead and have to peel back. So they do have a couple wards here they could go to, but you can see MVP, they're just going to go ahead and concede this Ocean Drake over to Kongdoo Monster. Not of much consequence. Looks like we're actually going to have a 3rd Ocean Drake.
Once again, life's a beach.
It definitely has been recently for both of these teams.
It mean a lot for Kongdoo to pick up the win. I was talking a bit in the last game about how they needed a break. Remember, they're not actually getting a break. They're going to be going over to Poland for IEM Katowice. They were announced after it seems like Samsung and SKT were no longer going to be playing at that event. Kongdoo did finish runners-up to Samsung at IEM Gyeonggi, so I guess it follows that they're taking their slot. We don't have official confirmation of that, but it would make sense. We saw a team... Oh, I'll hold that thought for a second.
Oh, Ashe are not going to connect. His edge flashes away from the Maokai. TP will come through from Roach. Turret's still there, however, and 4 members of MVP should be relatively safe.
We saw a team in 7th spot go to IEM Katowice last year and reinvigorate that season. Now, of course, a bit of a facetious story. That team was SK Telecom, who was struggling back in spring of last year. But Kongdoo going over, winning some games, making it to the final, I think that would be the sort of confidence boost they need, and the sort of confidence boost they're getting with at least their play in the first 20 minutes of this game against MVP.
Yeah. Let's go get some nice, sick international competition under their belts and try to bring that back to Korea, find some more success, but looks like they might have their first taste of it in quite some time here with at least this second game. Because if they win here, all's well and good. They break the loss streak, but they still have to play another one to close out the match and pick up their first actual victory.
And like you said a couple of times, we're not in the inevitability phase of this game just yet. MVP do have Maokai, Cassiopeia, and Ashe for their game team fighting, not even to mention Zyra. Scaling between Graves and Elise is a bit interesting to talk about. More utility from the Elise, but with the lethality items, it feels like Graves scales better into the late game team fights. So scaling-wise, probably slight advantage to MVP, but certainly nothing completely over the top. See Kongdoo pushing up. They want to get this top lane inhibitor turret. Would be their 3rd, as they broke mid lane already. Oh, Edge might be caught.
Yeah, Edge getting locked down. Petrifying Gaze does connect onto him. But a big burst of damage coming through from Punch. The collateral damage coming up with the kill onto Ian with the help of the Rise. And that is going to be 2 members of MVP going down. Big pickups for them. Let's see where they want to go from here. ADD still in the bottom lane. Wasn't able to TP in. Couldn't get into a position away from Roach to try to turn the tide of that fight. Looks like Kongdoo just going to go ahead and knock down this tier 1 turret.
9-stack Rod of Ages, Abyssal Scepter, Merc Tread. They thought the magic damage would be enough. It was not. Turn around, dispatched by Graves and Rise. Big call for Kongdoo to be able to do that. They continue their pressure. They take out all outer turrets. Just that Edge is so much more tanky than they expect. The fact that the Petrifying Gaze actually registers as Edge does not complete turning around must have been what baited MVP to just hard commit to the last. That was the last for both mid lane and jungle.
And we're starting to enter that territory where Kongdoo Monster found themselves in game 1. Maha completely cut off, gonna flash away from that hail of arrows, but the flash forward, Chain of Corruption lands, and that is one dead Ash punch coming up with the kill. 10-5 now. 6,000 gold in the lead is Kongdoo Monster.
Need some control wards. Baron is a realistic objective for Kongdoo. Poppy, Ryze, Graves can all trade tank. Now though, no control ward on the objective. Makes it an impossibility for this second.
Edge getting caught with the Petrifying Gaze yet again, but look at this, he's just perfectly willing to trade back damage onto Ian. If that overload had hit, likely would have taken out the Cassiopeia. Gets the flash and the cleanse out of him right off the bat. Ian just not having any success whatsoever.
Yeah, registering the stun, but that is certainly not enough. Fool me once, fool me twice. That plan is not going to work. No assassinations onto the magic resist stacking Ryze, who will soon have the Seraph Embrace shield to back up his already fairly tanky self. Kongdoo with the fast rotations from the Karma, double AD, in a different way. No Corki this time, but Graves and Varus to take down turrets. If no one's defending them, Graves has a lot of damage point blank to turrets, so Kongdoo very much first to every objective, and an MVP. Doesn't feel like they have any answers, Achilleos.
Yeah. See Soul perfectly comfortable. Pick up that third item QSS alongside the Last Whisper. Hasn't even really been threatened that much to warrant it, but it's just a better safe than sorry tactic. Doesn't want to give, that big pick in for MVP, and then that could maybe lead to them netting themselves a Baron.
I don't think MVP is strong enough to start contesting for objectives like red buff. Baron's the only one they're going to have to make a desperate attempt around, so good to see them pulling back. They're putting down as much defensive vision as possible, sticking some control wards, but they will have to surrender objectives like red buffs and inner turrets for now.
The gold lead just continues to grow. Max trying to create picks, throwing out these roots, but coming up short, and even then MVP just don't have much damage to try and secure a kill.
One problem for Kongdoo is that Gugu needs to shop and actually get a refresh on his wards.
Oh, Soul, there we go, instant QSS comes through, keeps himself safe, and he's got plenty of wave clear to ensure that MVP cannot push forward and take this tier 1 turret in mid.
The only missing part of the puzzle is teleport wards for Roach to come in on around the red buff, and only a single control ward that will be cleared if Baron is ever started. So needs to get the refresh on the Eye of the Watcher that Karma has in her inventory. Now Redemption as well. Another tool that makes it very helpful for taking Baron. And that's the last piece of the puzzle. Feels like Kongdoo eventually invade one more time, put down Deep Vision, stop Baron, Poppy comes to the back line, and it should be academic from there. But this is the 10th place team without a single match win, so can't ink that seemingly inevitable passage of play just yet.
Kongdoo pick up their second Ocean Drake, so a lot of sustain available to them now. And it will be another Infernal coming up, so if they can get double Infernal on top of this lead that they've already garnered for themselves, might just be enough to go ahead and close it out. Because Soul's piercing arrows are going to be doing a stupid amount of damage. They already are, but when you get that 16% extra AD, it just completely skyrockets from there.
And super low armor values. Only the Ninja Tabby and Cloth Armor onto Beyond, who might be going for, seeming like it's going to be the Dead Man's Plate. Yeah. Some armor completed on ADD, but none on Ian, Maha, or Max yet.
Yeah, Maha will get completely annihilated. Probably get 2-shot, maybe?
Yeah, I think 2 full charged Qs would kill him.
Without corruption stacks.
Goes without being said for a couple of auto attacks thrown in there.
If he gets 3 stacks and a big piercing arrow, it might actually just kill him.
I don't think it would, because the stacks are health related, so I don't think it'll be enough, but that would be about 80% of his life.
Close enough.
Also, you'd imagine he takes damage from getting the stacks on him, so that would also be pretty significant.
Yeah, so I'm saying that, those plus the piercing arrow, it might die.
Be close.
Might be able to find out pretty soon here. Max gets chunked down to half HP off of 1 piercing arrow without any stacks whatsoever. And that is going to be the second inner turret falling for MVP. Kongdoo, they just maintain the pressure almost towards that 10,000 gold lead mark. Punch gets caught by the Cocoon, but they can't really commit in for anything. No one there to collapse, and there's just darkness inside the jungle. So they have to be really cautious when it comes to pushing forward. Beyond getting caught by Edge, pops it pretty low. Meanwhile, Cougar getting caught. ADD and Ian come up with a kill. Getting corruption from Soul, not going to connect, and now Roach comes in with the TP. What is he going to go for? It looks like it's going to be ADD. Pins him into the wall, and everybody just shredding down the Maokai as best as they can. Heal comes out, but it's not enough to keep him alive. Maha doing his damnedest, but now Ian falling. That's going to be the flash away from Max to get himself out of that Realm Warp. And he will be able to live a 1-for-1 exchange top laner for support. And now there is no one tanky on the side of MVP. So Kongdoo Monster, they can do whatever they please inside the base. And they're going to start with that mid inhibitor, and looks like this top one is going to fall as well.
So much respect shown by MVP, where they got the first pick and then they let ADD get DPS down from full health, all other members of MVP running away. It's one of those scenarios where would they have lost a fight 4v5? Perhaps. I would say it's likely, but not necessarily 100%. But the reason why I bring it up is that if you go 1-for-1 against Graves Varus with everyone else chunked out on your team, you're going to lose bonus objectives on the backside. So they seem to have had an educated call that they would have lost the game from going in, because otherwise they made the wrong trade, in my opinion.
You can see the minions almost getting rid of that final inner turret. He has to go answer the wave. Baron has not been started up by either side yet, but Kongdoo are certainly looking to establish vision around the pit. They've got one on the backside, one in front there in the river brush, as well as a control ward now placed.
Well, their vision's been cleared out at this point. Seems like all the green wards are dead, and the control wards too.
Kongdoo, they're pushing in, they're doing just that though. They're clearing out all this vision. Nice dash away by Punch. Cougar will get it. Big Petrifying Gaze connects on the two, but can they come up with a kill? Roach goes low, below half HP. Redemption immediately thrown down. And it's like nothing ever even happened to Punch, almost back in full.
This isn't pushing anything for Kongdoo Monster. They're not getting more until they actually start the Baron. We see Punch pull back, no vision on the pit. They do have Hawk Shot, and at least, whether it's Concorda or not, I can't be clear, but also the blue trinket ward from Maha. No vision yet. Sapling gives them a spot vision.
Yeah, Beyond running over, doesn't get hit by that Keeper's Verdict, goes up with the repel, but comes back in, and it's just way too early, smites early, and that is going to be the Baron picked up by Punch. Comes up with a kill as well, and now here we go. Kongdoo Monster just jumping straight in onto the face of MVP. They take out Max and start things off. Maha will fall swiftly thereafter as Soul has just so much damage on this Varus at the moment. That is going to be the ace. Plus the Baron, they have the super creeps coming down the mid lane. That should be game here by Kongdoo Monster. 31 minutes on the board, very decisive. This is the team that we are expecting to come into spring from IM Gyeonggi. They've been absent, but they show up here today in game 2.
Yeah, clean ace to get the Baron as well, DPSing down the Elise before smiting it. The cheers are there, and they're well deserved. 11 was the streak, but the streak is broken. Finally, a victory for Kongdoo Monster. No elation on their faces. They know there's still a job to be done. After a win like that, they're looking for their first match win as well.
Yep, definitely not out of the woods yet. So now have to come back in for this third and final game of this best of 3 to try to close it out.
Got to ban that Graves. I think Graves is the champion that has been the commonality. That's why I like them returning to Graves Karma. If we see a third draft of Graves Karma across the lanes for Kongdoo Monster, I think it's a drafting mistake for MVP. Because the early invade was the only thing they had going for them in game 1, and the Graves pick in general. And what is empowered Punch? It's finally the Punch that we alluded to, that we previewed, that we hoped to see. Took a long time to finally see. 13th time on the Rift, but 13th time is the charm for Kongdoo Monster.
Now we just have to see if this is a one-off or if they're finally getting some wind in their sails. If they can close out game 3, definitely would be a big statement for this team and help them avoid that looming threat of relegation for the summer promotion tournament. They still would be secured in that 10th place spot, but this would be a step in the right direction for Kongdoo Monster.
A balanced draft, Kongdoo wins out. Game 1 draft, big questionable with the Rumble. Gonna see them back on red side now. Let's see how they interact with the second round of the draft, because that was their big Achilles heel in game 1.
Yeah, MVP. Back on the red, we'll see what they can piece together. Maybe ADD will be able to get his hands on that Scion. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we'll have that third and final game.